Hey everybody, it's Dr. Kyrin. Welcome back to Her Brilliant Health Radio. I'm so glad that you chose to join me today. Today we have a wonderful guest who's going to talk with us about hypnotherapy. She's trained in many different energetic health modalities, but hypnotherapy is something that we haven't talked about on the podcast, and I think that you'd find very interesting. I've had it done myself, and it can be a very useful tool when you are going for ultimate healing and optimal wellness. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Kristine Ovsepian. Hopefully I said that correctly. She incorporates her background in psychology with ancient healing modalities and the best of modern energy medicine to help people move from being blocked and stuck in negative emotion to regaining their confidence and becoming empowered to manifest their goals and dreams. She is the best-selling author of Living Through Choice, a guidebook through healing on all levels. In addition to being an intuitive healer who has worked with many A-list clients in Los Angeles, she is certified in hypnotherapy, neuro-linguistic programming, emotional freedom technique, breath work, and more. Please welcome Kristine. Hi, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Kyrin. Thank you for having me.
So I know that you are trained in so many energetic modalities. You started with psychology, and I'm always interested in why people do the work they do, why they're passionate about the work they do. So can you share with us how you came to help people the way that you're helping them?
Absolutely. So up until over 10 years ago, I was in accounting and very left brain logical work in a cubicle on a daily basis. And over the years, I realized that my emotions were really causing a lot of physical ailments in my body. And so there were moments where months at a time, I would continuously end up in the doctor's office, and my doctor would constantly tell me something, you need to change something, whatever it is that is not working for you, you need to change it. And I knew what it was. It was my career, that it wasn't fulfilling for me. And so but I ignored it, of course, because it was safe, and change is always difficult, and we always fear change, right? The fear of the unknown. The fear of the future. So I kept forcing that world for about 10 years. And then by the 10th year, my emotional state became so deep and dark that my physical body was deteriorating. And one of my appointments that I went to my doctor, he looked at me and he showed me the file, because back over 10 years ago, they weren't electronic yet, and there was a physical file. And he said, "You're not even in your 40s and you have a file of an 82-year-old woman." And he said, "If you don't change something, you won't survive too long," because my gut area was just in such a mess. And he said, "I give you not more than 2 years," because even my right arm, I had quote unquote nerve damage. And why I say quote unquote is because it was so emotional. I was told by doctors that they were going to open me up in 2 different areas in my right arm to relieve the nerves, but they said there were guarantees that would help. And last minute, 2 days before the surgery, I just said no to that surgery, which I'm grateful that I said no, because it had nothing to do with the physical problem. It was an emotional problem. And so really, I can safely say I hit rock bottom at that point, and I realized that I had 2 little children, and my kids deserved a lot more, and they deserved a happy mother, and I deserved to be happy as well. While externally my world looked perfect, internally my world was very deep and dark and sad, empty. It was the easiest way that I can say it. So I kind of left accounting cold turkey, and I just started to pray. I turned to spirit, I turned to God, I turned to divinity, and I just prayed. And one night, surprisingly, I had a very vivid dream. And in that vivid dream, I was actually wearing a white coat with a golden badge. And I looked at myself and I said, "I know who I am." And I woke up that morning, although at the time I was studying for the CPA exam, trying to still force the accounting world. I took my computer and I Googled in hypnotherapy, and my culture doesn't believe in therapy, traditional therapy, yet alone hypnotherapy. And I looked at that word and I said, where is this coming from? What is this? But I was in such a desperate place. I just said, this must be divine guidance. And so I started searching, and I found the school that I went to, HMI, Hypnosis Motivation Institute, and I found actually a therapist there, and I said, if this helps me, I'm a believer. And I went into a couple of sessions with her, and my world just changed suddenly. Suddenly I had clarity, and I knew what I was supposed to do, and that white coat. And I knew I wasn't going to be a doctor, because Western medicine, to me, it's like I can't deal with blood and all that stuff, but I knew I'm helping people and I'm healing people. And from the first day that I started my hypnotherapy program, and with it, I started my psychology program, it just suddenly felt like I was home. Everything made sense. Everything was just so clear. It was so exciting. And that's kind of how my journey started, and I haven't looked back since.
So I'm just curious, you saw yourself in the dream in the white coat with the gold badge. What made you think hypnotherapy?
Because that word came up.
Oh,
and
it
the
came
badge
to you
badge,
also.
yes, exactly.
I see. So
in the morning, I woke up and I automatically just typed in hypnotherapy. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And that golden badge, by the way, a year later, I got it when I became a clinical hypnotherapist. The golden badge was given to me a year later.
Very cool. That's amazing. And, you know, there really is this other world that you can tap into when you ask for divine guidance. And this is something that I talk about all the time that's different from most doctors is, you know, they don't talk about religion. They don't talk about spirituality. And for everyone listening, I'm not talking about religion. That's your thing. I'm not treading on that. I'm talking about spirituality, which science has now validated in many ways. So I love that. And now really your passion has become your purpose, and you're helping people to move past blocks, which you were stuck.
Yep.
So what is it about hypnotherapy that helps people get unstuck? Say there's somebody listening who is feeling stuck like you were. They're not crazy about the job they're in. They're not crazy about the relationship they're in, or something about their life, and they're having maybe health problems that they may or may not relate to what's going on, but they're just stuck. What does hypnotherapy do to get you unstuck?
So because hypnotherapy is work on a subconscious level, I always explain to my clients the easiest way. Hypnotherapy is, of course, tapping into the subconscious mind, which is really the hard drive, like a computer. If we were a computer, what is on our conscious level, the 12% is on the desktop, and then what is really happening, the programming, the information, and from 0 to 7 years old is really where we get our programming. That determines most of our future, of our relationships, of our choices, of our fears, of our limitations, or expansion and success. So what we're given the first 7 years of our life determines much of our future experiences, but that does not mean it's written in stone. At any moment that we notice there's a block, there's an obstacle, there's a belief system, because ultimately it all comes down to a belief. And how do we get these beliefs? How do we get this information into the subconscious? Is through repetition, repeat, repeat, repeat. And the same way hypnotherapy comes into the picture, that through repetition, in shifting the belief systems from the limited belief to open flowing belief, it not only gets people unstuck, it raises their vibration, it shifts their mindset. And that unstuckness, because we're really tapping into the hard drive and really making the changes, per se, the softwares, right? The memories, the belief system from the hard drive, instead of just deleting from the desktop and thinking it's gone, because it's not. And that's why oftentimes there's not a week that I don't get calls from clients who have been in traditional therapy, and I have a lot of respect for traditional therapy, but I always say a combination of different multiple tools can truly help us to achieve our goals, because and my clients just say, for years, all of my adult life, I've been in therapy, I've been on medications, and I feel like I'm still in the same space. It's because, again, it's just done on a conscious level, where the real programming information is on the subconscious level. And unless we go in there, we're not really making that big of a difference or change. And that's what hypnotherapy helps us do, to go deep in there, like you said, the work that you do, getting to the root of it and not putting Band-Aids over problems, because that doesn't help ever. Band-Aid is eventually going to come off and the wound is still there.
Yes. So for people listening, they're probably familiar with the conscious mind and the subconscious mind that operates them 95% of the day. They don't think about it.
Yeah.
But if I were listening, I think, well, how do you talk to, what do you do with hypnotherapy to speak to my subconscious mind that why can't I just put a program, like how do you access the program? And why can't I just think new thoughts? I mean, probably if you're listening, you've experienced this. Maybe you are in the habit of drinking wine every day when you come home and you've said, okay, I'm really concerned about the fact that I'm drinking every day and I'm going to stop, and you try to stop, but you can't.
Yeah.
Or maybe there are things that you've wanted to do to move forward in your life, like you keep saying you're going to work out and you don't work out. So if you're listening, then you're probably familiar with this inability to change your habits at will. And so it's the subconscious that governs that. So if I'm listening, I'm thinking, how do you bypass that conscious mind and speak to that subconscious?
So bypassing the conscious mind and tapping into the hypnotic state is really a natural state. Every single day, every single individual goes through this. Even animals go through this, but animals don't have the beta mind. We have it. So the beta is that limited, that conscious, that negative, that kind of yapping away constantly mode. And once we bypass that, which every single night before we go to bed, we bypass the beta, and that's the consciousness that goes to sleep, the beta mind that goes to sleep, and we tap into the subconscious, which is the alpha, theta, and delta levels. And so once we bypass the beta, which the easiest way I can say we bypass the beta in hypnosis is when we're doing the progressive relaxation and we're taking the person and going through this journey of relaxing the body and going through each and every part of the body energetically and visually and through sensations and feelings. We bypass the beta because the beta tires out. It kind of goes like, oh, I'm over this, I'm out. And then we tap into alpha, which is the first vibrational level where hypnosis begins, meditation begins. And how that happens is once the beta is out of the picture, we get through that kind of filter. We tap into the gates and the gates open and we become suggestible. So the way we really heal and transform our lives is through suggestibility. And suggestibility could be a great, beautiful event. It could be an awful, traumatic event. And those are the moments when we're really suggestible. Any information that's coming in, it just takes root. So through hypnosis, why I always focus on giving my affirmation suggestions to my clients in the most positive way possible is because I understand that when you're in that suggestible state, reinforcing negative words is not going to help the client. So, and in that suggestible state, oftentimes people don't realize what information is coming in, which is why I always encourage my clients early in the morning or before bedtime not to watch news, not to read anything negative, not to have arguments, not to introduce anything negative to their mind, only positive, because in that suggestible moment, any information that you give it, you just receive it very quickly. And then, of course, in hypnosis, there's layers, of course. Beyond alpha is the theta, where the floating sensations happen and the rocking happens. And so many of my clients come out of the session saying, was the chair vibrating? Do you have a motor on the chair? And I say, no, that was simply your energy. And so beyond theta is delta, where the client feels like they're sleeping. They don't hear what I'm saying to them, but vibrationally, their subconscious is absorbing the information. And every single morning, we go from sleep and we come up delta, theta, alpha, and oftentimes people get trapped again back into beta. But most of the time with hypnotherapy, what we do is the healing that we achieve. My clients are no longer tapping into the beta, whereas that chaos mode where all the negativity and fears and lack and stress and anxiety and depression is, they more so function in the alpha. And even if events happen in their life that they might for a moment jump up into beta, they have the tools and they have the ability to quickly make that shift back into alpha, because no one can truly change anything or make rational decisions from the beta state. It's always in a somewhat chaos mode. We can only make good decisions from the alpha state. So that's basically the journey that we take on in hypnosis.
Okay, great. Thank you for that explanation.
Sure.
And so is that similar to what people will do when they get into a meditative state? They go to the alpha and theta. So is it enough? How many hypnotherapy sessions does it take to get someone where they consistently stay in the alpha and the theta?
So depending on the individual, when my clients ask me that question, I always tell them, how quickly do you receive information? How quickly do you absorb and take in information? Everybody's mind works differently. As a student in the classroom, right? 30 students, when the teacher gives the same information, but do all 30 students receive it in the same way? Like 5 of them may receive it right away. The other 5 may take 10 minutes. The other 5 may take an hour. The other 5 may take the next day. So just first depends on that, but typically, generally speaking, studies show that it takes us about 21 to 30 days to make a permanent shift and change. And as a doctor, I'm pretty sure you believe this and know this as well, 21 days for the body to heal. Exactly. So it's the same process, and also other studies show that just hypnotherapy alone, up to 6 sessions, gives you 93% success rate, which no other therapy has the ability to do. So that already shows you the power of hypnosis and hypnotherapy.
Yeah, it's interesting. My first experience with hypnotherapy was actually when I was a teenager, and I didn't have hypnotherapy, but a friend of the family's had it for compulsive eating, and it was amazing the results that she obtained. She kind of went away for a week and she worked with a hypnotherapist, and she came back, and whereas before she left, she could not stop eating. She just was constantly with junk food and sweets. And then when she came back, it was a completely different person, and it sustained for years.
Yeah.
And so that was my first experience. So I was really impressed. Are those the types of things that you help people with?
Right. Many of my clients come to me mostly because they feel depressed or anxious and have anxiety. A lot of it is more so anxiety, because our universe keeps shifting and expanding, and everything is just moving in such a quick, fast pace. Everyone's experiencing that. And even the explanation, when I tell my clients, remembering the power of our mind, that what we tell ourselves is what our body will believe. Even the idea of anxiety that so many of my clients call me with, and they say the first words that come out of their mouth is, Kristine, I'm full of anxiety. And in the session, I explain to them, look, up to about 95% of the description between anxiety and excitement is the same. Yeah. It's just, what do we label it, right? If we that anxiety, no one ever says, yay, I'm having anxiety, but who says, yay, I'm having an excitement, right? It's the labeling. So how we label our experience is truly, I can't tell you how many times a week I tell my clients, it's really the thoughts create our life and experiences. And sometimes my clients look at me like, what are you talking about? I don't have control over my thoughts. And I say, we always do. We always have a choice. Choice is a powerful, powerful thing that so many people think they don't have.
Yes, and I want you to talk about that, and then the name of your book is Living
Through Choice.
Through Choice.
Yeah.
And so can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that most people, when you say you have a choice as to what you feel, you have a choice as what you think, and a choice as to what you believe, most people would say that's not true.
That's right. Yeah.
So talk about why that's true.
Well, honestly, why that is true is because, first of all, it is our birthright. We are the creation of the divine, the universe, the collective consciousness of love and light, and we have free will. We always have free will to choose good or to choose bad, which ultimately there's no good or bad. There's just experiences on a spiritual level. But for the human kind of understanding sake, we always label things, right? It's good or it's bad. It's happy or sad. And so for that purpose, we always have a choice in what we think, what we do, how we create, if we choose to be victims in our own lives. And the reason why majority of humanity does not believe that they have a choice is because, think about it, being born and as a child, we come into the world, the first 2 years are the genius years, and we just can be, do, create, and we're so magical beings, right? We believe in everything and anything, but by the time we're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, and at 7 years old, when the beta mind begins to develop, we are constantly told, no, you can't, this is bad, this isn't good, this will harm you, the control, the limitations begin to take over, and our beliefs begin to shift from that expansive world to a limited world. And so we start to think that we don't have control over our own lives because we're constantly told by our parents, number one, what we cannot do and what we can do. And so a majority of the time, parents, of course, I'm a parent too, and my parents too, I always realize that as a parent, we try to do the best we can for our children, but at the end of the day, parents end up transferring their own limitations and beliefs if they don't heal it to their own children. And that becomes their belief system because it's repeated. So many of my clients on a weekly basis say, I always said I will not become my mother. Always said I will not become my father. And I became my mom and dad.
And really you're programmed to do that. You cannot help to do that unless you take steps to consciously make a different choice. And I guess that computer analogy you were talking about earlier, where it's almost like the hard drive determines the thoughts, feelings, and actions of the computer. And so it does the same for you. And of course, if you are the hard drive, you say, well, it's my personality. It's just the way I am. But my understanding from current science is that really you are in that hypnotic state your whole first 7 years of life, and you're just taking in the information. This is who I am. This is my personality, but that may not really be who you are. And so you have to change that hard drive to change the dialogue, the thoughts and the feelings. And why that's so vital in terms of health is that science has now bridged that thoughts and feelings directly affect your health through your cortisol, your stress hormone.
Exactly.
And your adrenals. And so all those health problems that you were having were probably related to that. And if you're listening, this is why getting control of your thoughts and feelings is so important, and your beliefs. So compulsive eating, smoking cessation, I'm familiar with, even in mainstream medicine, it has validated hypnotherapy for treatment options like that. But I haven't heard it used in the context of really healing mood disorders like depression and anxiety, or feeling stuck in life. And so I love that was your introduction. And then that's one of the ways that you help people, and you have other modalities that you use too. But I love that you're using it for this application, because there's so many people who are in that place of negative moods, challenging health, challenging life situations, and they don't know how to move forward. Talk about some other ways that you've used hypnotherapy to help people.
I mean, hypnotherapy can be used in so many different ways. Even past life regression, right, is done through hypnosis. That sometimes even there's situations where clients experience or life, there's no explanation of why certain things are repeating in their life. There's no explanation of why there are certain fears in their life. So through hypnosis, we're even able to tap into past lives to find that information. And so there's many, many different ways. I mean, fears are healed through hypnosis, and limiting beliefs are healed through hypnosis. Many of my clients come to me because they're lost in their purpose, and they don't know, they've forgotten who they are and what they're meant to do, and the job that they're at, they're unhappy. And so there's many, many, beyond, because a lot of times hypnotherapy is looked at as for smoking cessation and weight loss and
Yeah.
To me, more so, those are, which they're not simple things, but they are more so simple, but it can be used for so many different, anything. I always say everything starts in the mind and ends in the mind. So whatever starts in here can be healed.
So you mentioned if they're lost on their purpose, and so you had the blessing of that wonderful dream that really guided you. I don't think the average person is that in tune to know how to properly ask questions to get the answers that they're wanting. So how do you work with someone who comes to you, not necessarily specifically for hypnotherapy, but they say, Kristine, I'm stuck. I hate the job I'm in. And I need help. How do you start addressing that?
Of course. And I always tell my clients, and because of that, because I don't believe there's only one modality to heal everybody, just like there's no one medication that will heal everybody. I believed throughout my, path in the past 10 years that in adding certain, and of course, I don't add every modality to my practice because I need to first believe in the modality and connect with the modality on a spiritual level. And so every modality that I work with, I connect with spiritual and heart, like on a heart, soul level. And so in addition to hypnotherapy, of course, I do life coaching as well. And a lot of times my clients who are lost and they can't find their purpose, I always love combining of the tools, techniques. So life coaching, I always combine with hypnotherapy. So if a client comes to me and they cannot figure out who they are, what they are meant to be and do in this lifetime, number one, we start with the coaching. So during the coaching session, I ask many, many questions to my clients and getting to really to the root, because every single one of us are born and here with a purpose. There's not an individual that is not here for a purpose or is here just to live life and just go against the current. We're all here with a purpose. And so through the, life coaching tools, techniques, I give my clients techniques to work with and raising their self-love levels and releasing emotions. And then of course, exercises to bring them more clarity, because in certain exercises is the power of getting rid of the clutter, because a lot of times the reason why we feel lost is because there's so much clutter on the conscious level. It just yaps away nonstop, and we can't get through it to get to the wisdom which is within us, which we're born with and will continue to be with us. So with the life coaching and hypnotherapy, I kind of tell my clients it's kind of like peeling the layers away, peeling the blanket away. I always describe my clients what our energy is about. It's like we're a helium balloon and we want to float and be free. And then life's experiences like blankets just thrown at us, and one after another, eventually that helium balloon feels so heavy under that heavy weight. It's still floating, but it's floating at a different lower vibration. And the moment you start clearing the clutter away, peeling the blankets away, suddenly you're clear again. Suddenly, you're back to the light being that you're meant to be. So ultimately, it's really clearing the clutter of the memories of the stories from the past that are really the cause of a lot of the blockages and the fears and the doubts and the limitations and the lack of self-worth and self-love. I mean, all of that gets affected just by the limiting beliefs that we have. The life coaching is a part of my sessions too,
And I think it's so important for me as a physician to educate people about this, because when I practiced traditional OBGYN for over a decade, it wasn't something that I talked with people about because I didn't understand the connection between being on purpose and your energy, your energetic self, and your beliefs and your thoughts and your emotions. Now that I know, and I've gotten towards my true purpose, unfortunately, it took a lot of pain to get here. It's something that I really help people to understand. So if you're listening and you're thinking, why is Dr. Kyrin doing a podcast about this? What does my dissatisfaction with my job have to do with anything? And I'm here to say it has everything to do with your health. It has everything to do with your life and your health. And I've had some clients whom one comes to mind who was in a really awful marriage. And we did everything, and she got some improvement with her physical health, but eventually she'd start backsliding. And we kind of had to have this talk about, you know, until you make a decision to do something to heal that relationship or leave it, whichever works for you. I'm not a proponent of one or the other. We're just not going to get where we want to be. So if you're listening and you're stuck with your health, you're having unexplained health symptoms, you're having health symptoms that are unresolved despite some type of functional integrative approach, then you've got to start looking at where you are in your life. What's the beta brain? I like how you say that. What state are you in, and what are you running? Are you running a fear program or a love program? So you mentioned in there that you would give some exercises to work on their self-worth and self-love. Could you share with us one? Because that's something that I'd love to talk with people about, just something they could maybe start doing today.
Of course. Yeah. One of the simplest ones, of course, there's many, and I'm just thinking which one would be good, but I would even start, because this one is coming through very strong intuitively, the gratitude, the power of gratitude. As there's the quote that says, gratitude is the miracle that creates in our lives. So many miracles can come from gratitude, right? And the heart is the center of that. And the more gratitude that we feel, that we experience, the more gratitude energy that we put out into the world, and more gratitude. It's like a boomerang, right? A grateful heart is the I'm trying to remember the quote. The grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. That's
I love that. Who said that? That's wonderful.
Yes. And it's very true, because gratitude is such a love, and gratitude are the highest vibration energies in our universe. And by just focusing, and a lot of times clients, you know, would ask me like, how do I get to that place? I say, well, repetition, repeat, 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 repeat. How do we become experts at anything? Repeat, 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 repeat. None of us became experts at what we do by just doing it one time. We keep repeating, and we become experts at it. We become comfortable with it, and it becomes our known. And our known is our belief, and that belief becomes the experience. It's a chain reaction, and that's all we need to really focus on. So gratitude is very powerful, and I always invite my clients in the mornings to write down, not even just think it, but the moment they wake up and the moment they're ready to go to bed, to finish their day and begin their day with a gratitude affirmation. And I just simply say, I am grateful for. And I not only tell my clients to be grateful for the things that you have, because people get into the into the kind of a routine of, oh, I'm grateful for my house, I'm grateful for my car, I'm grateful for family, but then there's no feeling behind it. So I invite them beyond that to really say, I'm grateful for, and fill in the blanks with things that you desire to experience, because the universe says, believe it and you'll see it. But the ego, the beta brain says, I don't see it, so I don't believe it. So gratitude helps us to reinforce that I believe mode energy. And while you're constantly repeating that and saying, I'm grateful for, let's say, I don't know, whatever the person would want. I'm grateful for my health, right? While they're trying to achieve health and well-being, by saying I'm grateful for it, guess what? Your body hears it. And we're 70% water. We all... I don't know if everybody knows this, but most people at this point know that we can program water to do what we want it to do. And we're 70-80% water. And so programming the water and drinking it, and programming your body by saying it or writing it, is the same thing as programming.
So talk about that, because I have mentioned it, but talk about the programming water. Some people are thinking, how program water to do what? What is that?
I mean, there's science behind it, right? There's you Google just programming water, and millions of pictures will come up of the studies that were done and how crystals of the water change. And when we say negative things to water, and the crystals become deformed. And when we say positive things to water, the crystals become beautiful and magical looking. So the same happens within us. If we keep programming ourselves, even when my clients hurt a part of their body or have surgery, I tell them, I invite them them to even write it on a piece of tape and put it over their cast that says love and gratitude. The healing ability of the body shifts and changes. I tell them, just place your hands over that body part and send it love. I mean, there's scientific proof. It's been shown that even tumor begins to shrink when people stand over it and just send it love and light. They're not standing there and saying, oh, go away, right? They're sending it light, and that gratitude and love energy is healing and shrinking the tumor. So there's so much, and all it takes is simply by just, even I have like glass bottles, because I don't do plastic. I don't like plastic, which I feel we all need to shift from, plastic to bottles, glass bottles. I just write the words love and gratitude and health and happiness on my bottles, and I pour my water in it, and it's programmed water. It's that simple. Doesn't take.
I love that. And that's a take home. And I just want to let everyone know listening that everything that Kristine's saying is scientifically validated. And so you can infuse your water with positive emotion, with words like love and gratitude, writing it on a bottle and putting it on the outside. And it does shift how the crystals that are formed from that water, if the water's frozen form. And if you put hate or a negative emotion on the water, it makes these deformed, irregularly shaped crystals. And your body recognizes this crystalline structure, and it's beneficial, and the healing of the tumor also. It's very amazing what we're on the precipice of with our health. Yeah. So you've shared so many wonderful tools. I think you've given people great insight into what their subconscious mind is, why they're stopped from doing things they want to do in life that they consciously want to do, and they just somehow don't seem to be able to move forward, how they can start programming that subconscious mind or reprogramming it using hypnotherapy. So thank you so much for sharing that.
You're very welcome, love. My pleasure.
And any last words that you'd like to share? The name of the podcast is Her Brilliant Health, and you certainly exemplify that and help people to achieve that. I'm wondering if you could share what that means to you.
Oh, it means the world to me. Every day, starting my day with an intention of just being of service and sharing what I've learned and what I've seen work for over 10 years now, not only in my life, but the lives of my clients. It just brings me so much joy. And the ultimate, really deepest root of that is remembering who we are and practicing self-love.
Oh, I love that. And thank you so much for doing the work. Thank you for sharing the information. It's been such a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, love.